So, ladies and gentlemen, today, after literally, I've been doing interviews of astrologers, Vastu experts for the past 7 years on YouTube. And today is, I would probably say, the most unique interview I'm conducting on the esoteric subjects of, India. And that is the authenticity, the cultural authenticity of Vastu Shastra. And I've heard many things, read many books, but once I came across this beautiful lady and her beautiful Soma-like speech, I was kind of just drunk on her. I'm like, I can listen to her for 10 hours if she spoke. And I'm like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get an interview from this gem. And so today I want to present to you Sashikala Ananth. And she is a professor, a PhD architect, and most definitely one of the great, knowledgeable masters of Vastu. So welcome to KRSchannel.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, one small correction. I'm not a PhD.
Oh, you're not a PhD? Oh, okay.
I'm only an architect.
You're an architect. Okay. Because I know you were teaching in a university, so I'm like,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Shashikala ji, where did your passion for Vastu and architecture start from?
This is in the 80s. What happened was after I had finished my college and started working as an architect, I happened to meet this very, very interesting person called Dr. Naidama, who is one of the older generation of great scientists of India. He was with the Central Leather Research Institute. And I was doing a study of scientific research centers. So I had gone to do some interview with him. And then suddenly he turned to me and said, ma'am, do you know about Vastu Shastra? So I said, I have never heard about it. And this was the lacuna of course, the architectural education, where they don't even introduce the subject. And I was quite taken aback. So I went straight away to the college library and I found one textbook of Mayamatham hidden in the library. Nobody had taken it out probably for decades.
Yeah.
A tattered old book. I sat down and I read it and I was completely hooked.
Wow.
And after that, what I did was I went to meet Sri Ganapati Stapati in Mahabalipuram. And he actually refused in the beginning to teach me because there has never been a woman before, in the tradition. It's a completely patriarchal system.
Right.
So I told him, look, I am really keen and I would certainly be capable of doing as much as I can because I had small children at that time. So I said, I'll try my best to put in as many hours as I could. So I spent 10 years with him.
Wow.
While I was practicing, looking after the home, bringing up small children and all the rest of it. So I learned to sculpt. I learned the texts. And I also assisted him in a lot of his projects.
I see. Wow. So since then, this journey has been going on with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So when, we hear as common people, we hear the word Vastu Shastra. We always think of what we see commercially, out in the world. That don't do this, don't have a toilet here, don't do that. In your authentic learning, especially from, the person that you spent 10 years with, and I know he's one of the biggest Vastu experts in India, what were some of the misconceptions that you saw that are just out there and people are just not even aware and they're just watching it and consuming it within them?
To give you a feedback on that, I might have to give you a slightly elongated historical perspective.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. See, the subject of the Vastu, as we know it today, was called Vastu Shilpa Shastra. And this has been the basic paradigm for all design of all the built environment from something like 1000, 2000 BC. So Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, everything is based on the principles of Vastu Shastra. There are textbooks available. And for those who may not know about the Indian tradition really well, the Indian tradition is not a textbook-based tradition at all. It's an oral transference.
Right.
You probably know about that.
Yes.
So the textual recording would have been much later. The original would have been the transference of knowledge from father to son, mother to daughter, and so on. Okay. That's how the Vedas were retained. That's how the Upanishads were learnt, and so on. So the Vastu Shastras was an understanding of the environment originally. So every text of the Vastu Shastra starts by describing how you must respond to the environment, which means study the plants and the trees in the area, look at the soil, understand the breeze, and so on. Unfortunately, the books that are in the market, the popular books in the market, have been written by people who are by and large astrologers. Mm-hmm. None of them are designers.
Yes, that's true.
They are either astrologers or people who see the, unfortunately, the money possibility, and they jumped onto the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. So this has been happening only for the last 30 years or so. Prior to that, if you look at it, the traditional community of the Vishwakarma were the ones who were practicing Vastu Shastra. Nobody else was practicing it. Right?
Yeah.
Now, all sorts of books have been written, and people just read a book and they practice it. The fact is that it is a practical subject where you have to learn with your hands. You have to understand soil. You have to understand the nature of unseen energies. There is many layers of understanding in the Vastu Shilpa Shastra. The word Vastu itself comes from two roots. One is Vas. Vas means is to reside. Even in Hindi, Vas means to reside. And Vastu means object.
Okay.
So Vastu means any object that occupies space.
Any object that occupies space.
Yes, Vastu.
It doesn't have to be a home.
Exactly.
Okay.
But since we design, automatically it refers to a built environment. But you can be a Vastu yourself. Because you're sitting on a chair, the chair becomes your Vastu.
Right. Okay.
So your mind and your thoughts are occupying you, so your body becomes the Vastu. So actually the enveloping of object and space is Vastu and Vastu.
Okay.
So Vastu Shilpa. Shilpa is literally sculpture or form again. So form and space. Design of form and space is the original Vastu Shilpa Shastra. So to design something, you can't just say, this is good, this is bad, put it here, put it there, change the slope and so on. That is formula. You cannot do that to every site and make identical buildings all over the place. Make same buildings in Tamil Nadu and the same one in New York and one in Sydney.
Right.
It's absurd. Because the Vastu Shilpa Shastras literally say the intelligent designer must go occupy the site for a couple of nights, stay there alone, and experience the phenomena that are in existence there.
Wow.
And only then he must start the building process. He has to taste the soil, taste the water, look at the color of the leaves, understand the sap of the trees so that he understands the fertility of the land. So we're really talking about a very sensitive environmental process, which has now been marketed and I feel messed up into a silly little rule book. And people have stopped believing in it because it has become a rule book.
I see.
Mm.
So when in Vastu, they're showing us that, how this like east direction is the sun. You should have a kitchen there, but not kitchen in the west. And planets are ruling certain corners of a Vastu environment. And according to that, you should put certain items there. How is that interpreted in the original form of Vastu Shastra?
I wouldn't, the texts actually don't elaborate and give you hundreds of examples.
Okay.
They give you only some guidelines. How I would like to understand it is looking at settlements that have already been in existence. Because I know settlements were planned by this intelligent system for centuries. So if you look at settlements in Central India, South India, North India, East and West, there are huge differences based on the local geography, topography, wind directions, sun, and so on.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint and give you one particular prototype.
Okay.
There are many prototypes, and the reality is that if you have a temple, like all our traditional settlements were created around the temple, right?
Yeah.
And the temple had a pond usually, which was the sacred water.
Right.
So around this, there would be streets. And it would be usually streets that are running north, south, east, west, all four sides.
Right.
And every one of the streets will have different positions for the kitchens. They're not all in the southeast. You can't enter a house which is on the south and have the kitchen at the entrance.
Right. Exactly. My brain was thinking that at point. I'm like, what if the direction is south? Are you guys supposed to build right there when you enter the home?
No, they wouldn't have. And also, if you remember your traditional Indian home, the women ruled the kitchen and they were never in the front of the house.
Yes.
They were always at the back.
Yeah, it's always isolated. It wasn't the open space.
Yes. It was the private home space, which will always be at the back. So, the important thing is, today there is a lot of data about don't have southern entrances and so on.
Yes.
Which is again a very absurd theory, because when you have the four streets around the temple, the northern street has houses on its northern side and all the houses are facing to the south, right? Because the street is on the south of those homes. It is known as the northern home. The southern street, which has houses which are facing to the north, is known as the southern home.
Okay.
So it is quite absurd saying you shouldn't face to the south because they are considered the northern home. Because where you're looking at is what is critical.
Where you're looking at is what is critical.
That is what is critical. Because all four, mostly the understanding, this is where the slightly mystical aspect comes in. In Tamil we call it parvai. Parvai means the drishya, your ability to see something. And that is very important. And this ability to look at something so that there is a relationship between you and that space.
Okay.
Is supposed to add to your wellness, well-being. And usually the Brahmasthana of a settlement is occupied by water, space, and the temple.
Okay.
And that is what is giving you your energy and your power.
I see.
Not the south facing, north facing, east facing, west facing.
Like they say, if your door opens to the south, then your wealth will disappear and all of this.
No, nothing.
People are in fear of that.
No, they are very, very scared of Yama being there on the south.
Yes, Yama being there, yeah.
See, the problem is that Yama, almost all parts of Hinduism is multi-layered. You don't have one single kind of explanation for anything. And they're all symbolic meanings. You shouldn't take it in a very sort of concrete manner.
Yeah.
Yama also is known as Dharmaraja.
Right.
So if you look at Kathopanishad, Nachiketa walks to the south to have a dialogue with the Lord of Dharma, who also happens to be the Lord of Death. So usually south is supposed to be the direction for spiritual movement. Or spiritual growth.
Okay.
One of the shlokas says, Yamyeti mokshadam. Moksha doesn't mean death. Moksha means being reborn in a spiritual state.
Spiritual state, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about now in a modern society, like I'm in United States, you're in India, and we have cities, we have, metropolitan areas, and they're building houses, they're building that. Now, let's say if somebody established in their home, and let's say we're to watch you like I'm watching you, and then I'm thinking, okay, according to what she has learned and she's showing to us, is there any way that we can reap benefits of that original Vastu text in the environment that we're in right now, which has already been built, already everything is set, and you can't just take everything out and rebuild it?
So, okay. My suggestion would be that the tradition has also talked about various things like ratios, proportions, texture, color, and shapes and forms. So taking a look, like for example, very simple thing like, Feng Shui also says it, don't create clutter in your room and you'll be a happier person. That is fair enough.
Yeah.
Creating disorderly spaces is going to affect your mind, right?
Yeah.
The most critical, in my opinion, the most critical aspect of Vastu Shastra is, like I already told you, Vastu and Vastu. Space and form are constantly creating relationships. So if you can actually start observing your relationship with the space around you and the form of objects that you place there,
okay,
you're already in the universe of Vastu Shastra. When you're conscious of your relationship with them, the distances, the shapes, the forms, the sizes, and then you are automatically getting into a space where you and the object have a vital relationship, not a passive one. It's filled with vitality.
So you mean like, let's say I have my desk, I have my TV, I have my books. So I should be conscious that, hey, this is my desk. This is where I'm working. This is my knowledge here.
Yeah.
And so what I'm feeling with that relationship should...
Exactly. Everything is symbolic, you see, in the Indian tradition.
Yes.
You have to look at, for example, you're sitting there with knowledge at your back.
Yes.
And information in your front.
Yes.
Right? So you'll have to see how that is affecting you in your work situation, your ethic, your mind, and your state of health.
Okay.
And someday just shift it and see what happens. Does it make a difference to you?
Okay. Like, they would say, like, you should not be sitting in front of a window.
Right.
Like, if there's a window in the back, you shouldn't sit. Is that something also that is people should be aware of? Or is that just like...
Yes, there should be. This is not part... See, some of this is not directly stated in the Vastu Shastra. But this principle I told you of darshana, what is looking and what is being looked at.
What is looking or what is being looked at? Okay.
So both the subject and the object have a correlation. So if you can actually consciously look at how you and the space around you are having a relationship, how it is being changed, how some days you're feeling good with it, some days you don't, you're moving into a more alive, more sensitive relationship with energies that cannot be seen. Imperceptible energies.
I see.
And that is important.
And is it based on individual person, or is there like a set principle that, okay, you should not sit in this direction but work in this direction? Or is it based on individual relation again?
See, there are default options,
Okay.
and there are also individual variations.
Okay.
The default option would be facing to the east is beneficial for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it cannot harm you at all because it's the direction of the sun. And there is a subject called cosmology. Cosmology means a cosmic reality being placed on the earth. Okay. And in the cosmology, you have east, west, north, south, and the ordinal or the non-cardinal, northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest.
Right.
Each of them has a meaning. Okay.
Right.
And the Indian tradition has looked at entrances only in the cardinal.
Okay.
It has not accepted ordinal directions. But then here I have to point out to you that today's magnetic compasses were not what the tradition used, you see.
Oh.
They used the sundial. Okay. And the sundial and the magnetic compass have a variation. They're not identical.
Oh.
So today we are using the compass and assuming we are doing traditional work.
Yeah, that's true.
There is quite a few.
Smartphone.
If I remember right, it's about 8 degrees. Wow. If I remember right. But okay. I don't want to vouch for that. Right. My memory is that it is 8 degrees towards the northeast.
Okay.
So there is a shift. And in fact, this shift has been talked about for temple building as a very conscious element. They placed the north, see the tradition always placed the east first and then derived the north because it's a sundial.
It's a sundial, yeah.
Yeah, so the perfect east was created, which is exactly what Egypt also did, if you remember your history. So the sundial east and then the north was fixed. And in temples, there was a slight rotation in the clockwise direction of 4 degrees. Okay. So that the temple will be filled with movement. It would be mobile and not frozen.
Okay.
So this whole thing of trying to fix it itself, I think, is non-traditional. That is one.
Okay.
And each of these directions has a certain meaning. Usually east stands for awakening because it's the direction of the sun and seeking of knowledge.
Yes.
Okay. So this will be more or less the same in other legends also. If you look at Greek legends, most of the heroes walk towards the east to find knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah? And usually they go to the south to find out about the meaning of life and death. If you remember, yes, exactly like Nachiketa. If you remember your Greek legend, Orpheus and Eurydice,
yes.
The land of Pluto, which is to the south. Okay.
Okay.
And west is usually a direction for adventure, for new beginnings. And this is the direction of Varuna. And Varuna is actually an ancient Vedic Devata.
Yeah, he's the Nakshatrapati of Satabhishak Nakshatra, the constellation.
And he's also the ocean. See, the Lord of the Ocean.
Yeah, Lord of the Ocean, yeah.
And the ocean, crossing the ocean usually means going on an adventure. Okay.
Okay.
And then you move to the north. North is Kubera as well as Soma.
Okay.
So, but not only wealth, it is also healing herbs. So again, if you go back to all traditional legends, people walked to the north to find healing.
I see.
So these directions have meanings. So if you face yourself in those directions and you're a person who requires a lot of personal healing, opening your house to the north makes sense. So you have to also fine-tune, customize for each individual. That's what I do with my work.
But if, let's say, you're in a family unit where you have mother, father, children, the grandmother, will that create a bit of a chaos only where like one person gets the benefit where the other person needs opening in the south? How does that play out?
See, Kapil, here, because you're an Indian, I can explain to you, even if you have been there for a long time, you probably understand.
Yes.
In the Indian tradition, as well as in many of the older civilizations, the family, the head of the family, known as the Karta,
Yeah.
was the most critical while he or she was alive. Okay, so usually the elder, it's both the man and the woman. The house is designed for the person who's the Karta,
Okay. I see.
who's both the family elder as well as the person who's going to pay for it.
Okay. Okay. I see.
Okay, the money bags.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this person is creating an energy field for himself, for herself, and for the family that's going to come up in the future.
I see.
And so the Vastu Shastras talk about designing for this family, which will last for 2 generations. So if I've done it for you, it will be suitable for your son or daughter and your grandson or granddaughter. After that, after the 2nd generation, for the 3rd generation, you're supposed to again check it, and because the house is fixed, you can change the doorway of your house into a new measurement, which is known as Ayadi.
Oh, okay.
And this is still done in South India.
Okay, like the height of the door, the width of the door.
Yeah, because the entrance door is known as the one which brings in pranavayu.
Yeah.
So the energy from the world outside, which you are assimilating and absorbing, comes through the entrance door, through the threshold. So traditionally, we always had a rear door in the same line because the apana vayu had to go out through that.
Ah, okay, this makes sense. Oh. And then what about like coloring the walls of a certain color? Do they have to be of a certain color in a certain direction? Is that causing any misalignment in the energy of the Vastu?
Traditionally, they did not use color in the homes
Oh, okay.
because they're usually only whitewashed.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah, and color was only in the fabric. And if you had a thatched roof, it would all be earth colors. If it's a tiled roof, it would be the usual deep reds and maroons.
Right.
And if you had a red flooring, red cement or whatever it is, red tiles, or it was just cow dung, you see, which is again earth color.
Okay.
It is only today that color has come into our lives.
Right.
In the ordinary person's life. Otherwise, only temples were colored with only the Panchavarna, the 5 colors.
The 5 colors of the elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the coloring was done for palaces and large mansions.
Okay. Does that create, so should an ordinary person be thinking too much into it? Oh, this color, this home that I'm getting is this color on this side, that color on this side. So let me now change the entire color. Or do they just leave whatever it is?
Color can be brought in.
Okay.
Because today I think we have absorbed color into our lives.
Yeah.
But my personal advice to people would be don't use strong colors for the walls.
Okay.
Because you have to live with it.
Yeah.
And some of them can be overpowering and may not allow you to be peaceful and happy in your everyday life. And the home should be a place where you can relax and be happy.
Relax and be happy. Yeah.
So I would suggest go for pastel shades.
Okay.
Even if you're using color, don't go for bold shades.
Bold shades. Okay. Okay.
And if you do want to have bold shades, just have one wall.
One wall. Okay.
Yeah. In the living room. Bedrooms, I think, should be pastel. Because color does affect your sleep.
Oh, no, that's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And what about like when through Vastu, when you hear, I mean, we hear it just on a normal books and commercial basis that if you put this object on this northern side, or if you do this on the northern side, wealth comes in. Like all of these new things that you hear, how is that, does that really creating that effect, or does the original Vastu has a complete different philosophy in terms of bringing prosperity within the home through Vastu?
Once again, I'll have to give you some background on where it is all coming from. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I told you, much of the Indian tradition is based on symbology and, on things which have deeper meanings.
Right.
It doesn't, it is not like A equal to B. It will have multi-layers of meanings. So the symbolism of certain objects definitely affects the state of the mind. Okay. And traditionally, we had only two kinds of objects that people placed in their homes. One was divine images, and the other was only ancestors.
Oh, okay.
There was very little else that people placed in their homes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Back then, it was just like Murti of Krishna or Ram, or just their ancestors. Yeah.
Exactly. So the ancestors were usually placed in the southwest, and the images of the gods at the entrance, in the puja, and maybe in the living spaces. They seldom placed them in bedrooms. Okay. But there is also a lot of data that I have read about in very old family homes, which are meant for larger families. They used to have a small room called the Chutagraham, which is where the childbirth used to take place. Because earlier times, the children were born in the home.
Right.
And this room was made very dark. It was completely plastered with cow dung. And it was kept extremely clean, so that there were no disease-carrying bacteria coming in, etc. And apparently, they used to have only one small ghee lamp lit there. And apart from the Dai who was taking care of the childbirth, and the mother and the child, nobody was allowed to enter the room for something like 21 days. Which is fantastic. Which is fantastic.
Okay.
Because that means that they were keeping the place extremely clean. And this purity and this cleanliness, probably mortality actually increased after the hospitals came in. If you don't know, remember your history.
No, absolutely, yes.
They did better with the cow dung Chutagraham. And the room, I believe, used to have very inspiring stories from the Puranas on the walls, so that the mother would feel deep feeling of piety and upliftment, so that the child also would grow up in a lot of peacefulness. So this, if you can understand the symbolism here, this is more or less what will apply to the rest of the home. So in the kitchen, you'll have a picture of Annapurni Devi with food, right?
Right.
With that pot of food on her lap.
Okay.
So that you're talking about abundance in your life. And so on. So it's actually very simple, kind of, I would say, direct correlation between the image and your activity.
Activities, okay. And is there certain things that you have seen in your own, your own research, that certain objects should not be placed in certain directions, which can like interfere with that prana that is coming in within the home?
I'm not so sure right now.
Okay.
I might need to do a little thinking on it, but definitely things like The swing, for example, was a very important part of every old home. And it usually was in the entrance veranda.
Oh, in India, yes, I've seen that. In the entrance veranda, there's like a little swinging thing where people just sit, have tea, and yeah.
Yeah. Or it will be in the courtyard. So it's both a conversational object as well as something where children relax and,
Right.
It's a feel-good thing. So I would suggest that things like that, where do you place it?
Okay.
The fun, for example, I'll tell you what struck me as being extremely contradictory. Once I was in an ashram in the US. I forget what it was called. And it was in the guest house. And they had placed a fairly large statue. It must have been about 2.5 feet tall, metal icon of Durga in the bedroom. And I had a very bad night. Normally, images of deities which have implements in their hands should never be placed in bedrooms.
Bedrooms, okay.
Because it does disturb you in your sleeping state.
Because these weapons are trying to constantly attack you in a way.
Yeah. It may not be attacking you. It may be attacking some other energy.
Something else. It's just the presence is there. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a very bad night. I still remember feeling very, very disturbed through the night. And having to change my location in the room so that I was not facing the image and so on. So some of these things, see, I don't want, I'm very careful not to give formulae because I think that's what is affecting the market today. Mm-hmm. I try to give the broader frameworks and principles or the ideals behind the whole thing. For example, I would say the relationship between you and the object that you're placing has to be clearly defined. Randomly, you can't be hanging things all over the place.
Right. Like if it's your guru, your spiritual guru or sadguru, you put them on the wall, you just have this relation with them.
Correct.
And now if you have that, that's like a protective energy instead of if you have never seen Kali or Durga and yet you put it, well, this is a strange energy and you don't know what is your relationship with that. Correct. So I absolutely get that. Okay.
So to be able to, for example, you choose the right day when you hang a picture or place an image.
Okay.
You always find the right time and the moment to place it because you are creating a new energy pattern in a space. You don't randomly fill up like for example, so many people get an interior designer to come and do their interiors. And randomly they place things, color code them and so you just end up having like a museum. And it's meant to impress others.
Right.
But there doesn't seem to be any energetic connection between you and that object.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And then one of the two biggest things that we have always seen, that this is something that even I questioned, is the directions of the bathroom in the home. Like your bathroom shouldn't be here, but now it's here. Like, oh my God, now all the energy and everything is draining from this bathroom. Or, for example, tree cannot be in front of the main door because it'll stop the prana and prosperity to come in your home. These are the two biggest things that I've seen where people are always very off in Vastu.
Yeah. Let's pick up the tree first.
Okay.
I have a lot of clients who come and ask me, there is this tree just outside of my door and do you think I should cut it? And I keep telling them the tree is older than you.
Yeah.
So respect, because traditionally what the Vastu texts have said and the practitioners, Ganapati Stapati taught me this. He said basically the roots of a tree can affect your foundation. And traditional houses were all made of temporary materials.
Yeah.
There were mud walls and maybe thatch or tiled roof. So the tree, if it is too close to the home, one will be the foundation, two will be the droppings from the trees that can break your roof. So usually the distance between your wall and the tree was considered to be quite okay if it was about around 12 to 13 feet.
Okay.
If it's less than that, only you have to worry.
I see. But it's nothing like is doing something negative for your
No.
life and your wealth and your kids.
The tree can never do any harm to you. It's usually nature. If it's close to you, I think you're lucky.
Yeah.
I would never cut a tree.
Okay.
I would never cut a tree unless it has lived its life and it might fall on your home. And it's necessary to protect yourself from it. Number one. Number two would be if its roots have started bothering your foundation. But even that today, there is enough technology to be able to build a small revetment to stop the roots.
Right.
There are so many very easy ways in which this can be avoided.
Yeah. Okay.
And then now the toilets. Toilets is slightly more tricky. Once again, I have to give you a little bit of history on this.
Okay.
Till 100 years ago, toilets were never inside the house in India. If you remember your village house.
Oh, yeah, they went outside in the Angan or somewhere to do their business. Yeah.
They had a toilet outside.
Yeah.
A bathroom was allowed because usually the bathroom is kept very close to the puja room because people used to be wet when they went into the puja room. Even now in many homes it's like that. They actually pour water fully dressed.
Oh.
And they in the wet garments they go and sit and do their puja.
What's the significance behind that?
I think it is something to do with the nudity. I don't think was acceptable.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this was a ritual bath. It was not like the bath where you put in soap and shampoo.
Yeah. Okay.
You just poured water. This is what they call Ganga Snanam. This is done for weddings also. Just before the marriage, Muhurtam, you had something called Ganga Snanam, where a pot of water, which has been, through mantra, the water has been energized. That water is just poured on top of you. And then dripping wet, you will go into the puja room and do your puja. And then you'll go and then change your clothes. So the bath was acceptable because you used water as a symbol of cleansing.
Okay.
And it was a ritual bath. But the toilet was always outside of the house. So today, if I say this is a good location for a toilet or not, I'm basing it on an interpretation. It is not a data coming from the past.
Okay.
So I have to now interpret. Obviously, if I walk into a house and the first thing I have is a kitchen on the right and a toilet on the left, it's a no.
Because those energies are coming in front of each other.
Exactly. So locating the toilet also will have to do something to do with the pattern of the space. How is the space being patterned? See, the design criterion, particularly if I'm doing a new design, was based on what is known as Pada Vinyasa. Pada Vinyasa is actually modular design.
Okay.
So they created a beautiful module based on the proportion, and the dimension of the module was based on the nakshatra of the owners. It's called Ayadi Shadvarga, where you calculate a perfect measurement for the family. And using that module, you set out the entire home. So proportionate relationship between every part and the whole was the most critical aspect of Vastu Shastra.
I see. Okay.
In a temple, the Garbhagriha would be the basic module.
Okay. So with our modern homes, when bathrooms are already designed, everything is already designed, Is there a way to find relief from that, or we shouldn't even worry about where the bathroom is, except that?
See, there are positions like in the northeast corner or the southwest corner would be energy loss. So there is a way in which you can protect it by keeping what I call protectors. And the protectors can be animals, they can be natural elements, or it can be the devatas. On the outer wall of the toilet, you can have a protector. Like I told you, no, if you place an object, a picture or an object, with a certain reverence at a particular, say, auspicious time, and then you create a relationship with that object, you can neutralize the effect of something that is not good in that space.
It's not a specific thing like a specific idol for protection because the bathroom is there. It could be anything that you feel would protect that area.
Yeah. I usually work with the client to find out what is it that they hold sacred or auspicious. Like I have worked with people who have no sense of religion or faith. And then I usually tell them, look, Ganesha is so auspicious mainly because he is a combination of the animal and the human.
Yeah.
So I usually tell them, if you're comfortable, place an elephant here.
I see. So let's say like if I am a big follower of Yogananda Babaji, the Kriya Yoga. So if like I put Yogananda in front of the bathroom, I know he's protecting that space for me.
Exactly. Okay. And then you do it in an auspicial time, because today more and more what I'm trying to do, Kapil, is what I call Yantra, Mantra and Tantra.
Okay.
Yantra is the object, Mantra is your sacred syllable, and Tantra is the process through which you are creating energies.
Ah, okay.
You're allowing energies to flow into you and into the space. So I help people to re-energize their space using Yantra, Mantra and Tantra. And I usually ask them to do it for 49 days.
40, okay. I see.
That is the one mandala. Some people call it 42, some people say 48. To be on the safe side, I tell them 49.
49, okay. So it's kind of like a daily practice that needs to be done.
Exactly. One particular moment of the day you choose, you create a temporary altar that can be on a brass plate with a lamp, some flowers, a little bit of earth from your garden, and then some fragrant substance like chandana or kumkuma. And then you have a cup with water. And then as you chant, the water gets energized. Then you use that water to sprinkle the space. And then seek the energies of whomever you hold sacred, any one of the gods, your Ishta Devata. And then you dismantle the altar and put back all the substances into nature.
After 49 days?
No, every day. Every day.
Okay.
Yes, it's a temporary altar.
I see. Okay.
The lamp can keep on, the lamp can be lit. The rest of the stuff you drop, put it back into nature.
I see. Okay.
And every day at the same time, the same person, it could be one person, two people, if they keep doing this with a certain intent. See, the most important is the intent.
Yeah.
The sankalpa that they hold in their mind, saying that may the space give me a good wellness, offer me plenty, may there be happiness in this home, good health, etc., etc. You can say it loudly, you can say it in your mind, whatever language you want.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, you sort of do a little chant. It could just be Om, it could be Gayatri Mantra.
So it's not something you're specifically giving like a mantra to an individual?
No. I would never do that. Okay. I ask them to choose. See, for me, It's not just me. My husband and I do a lot of work today with young people. For us, extremely important that today we bring back collaborative, collegiate relationships. I don't believe in this thing of a person calling themselves a guru sitting there and
Right.
assuming what is right for all mankind. I don't believe in it. So I usually dialogue with my client and we come up with something that is potent for them.
Okay.
So I have studied the tradition, but I have altered it with because I also have a background of behavioral work. I do a lot of counseling work. So I try to tailor make, customize based on the minds of the person whom I'm working with.
Okay. And if the audience who are watching this and they want to contact you for the same things, where can they contact you?
They can contact me. I can send. You have my.
I have your email. And
email. You can give them my email. No problem.
Okay. And the last thing that I want to ask is, most of us, even I was under this illusion that Vastu Purusha is alive as soon as you walk in the home and you're doing your work and you're arranging things, and Vastu Purusha is now becoming happy. But then through you, I learned that Vastu Purusha is actually sleeping.
Yeah.
And you have to wake him up.
Right. Absolutely.
Can you elaborate that a little bit?
This is it's a subject on its own. Anyway, I'll try.
Yeah.
The Vastu Purusha, actually, the whole thing is Vastu, Purusha and Mandala.
Okay.
Like I told you, Vastu is the space.
Yeah.
Purusha is the energy.
Okay.
And the original myth is there was this tremendous energy that was pulled out of one of the yagas that happened in the heavens in Devaloka. And this energy that came out in the beginning was extremely positive and proactive. And then as all energies, devatas also start becoming asuras. They start becoming petty and greedy and destructive and so on. So this Vastu Purusha who came out of this yaga also started becoming destructive. So the devas got very, very worried and they went to Brahma. Brahma said, don't worry, we will pin him down to the earth. So 45 of the devatas got together, sat on his back and pushed him down into the earth. Brahma in the center and all the other devatas all around. This is as far as the myth goes.
Yeah.
And myths are great because only then you remember, otherwise you forget. Beyond this, I wouldn't want to use the Vastu Purusha at all. I would say it is a spatial energy. Okay? And a mandala is a sacred diagram. It's like a yantra. Yantra and mandala are almost the same. So this energy is there in the earth. It is a potent force that is there within the earth. Bhumi holds this force. Bhumi is feminine. The force within is a Purusha or masculine.
Okay.
It's a male-female relationship. Shiva Shakti, Purusha Prakriti. Okay. Right. So Prakriti is holding this Purusha within her, and this energy is mostly inert. Though it is potent, it is inert, right? It is not moving. So so in certain times, every little while, this Vastu Purusha is willing to awaken. And the Panchangam will have all the dates on which the Vastu Purusha will wake up. So it is said that at that time, the earth force is ready to manifest. It's a great time to start building and to also seed. Plant seeds in the soil.
Okay.
Because the earth is ready to foster it and make it manifest.
Okay.
That's what it really means. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this Vastu Purusha's awakening time is when you are supposed to use the potent force of the earth and begin your building process.
Okay. So not
That's
like
all.
if a house is already built and I'm here living, do I need to awaken that energy or just let it be now that I'm already here?
You can awaken it. You
Okay.
can find out the days when he is awake
Okay.
and do a small prayer by yourself.
Okay.
Do a little chanting to him, because it basically means that you're reconnecting with the earth,
Reconnecting with the earth. Okay.
with the earth energies. But usually the Vastu Purusha's awakening is significant only when you're starting the building work.
Okay. Okay.
Bhumi Puja, when you're going to do the Bhumi Puja.
Okay.
But there is nothing wrong in being aware of him at all times.
I see. No, absolutely. Wow. So, Sashikala ji, I want to thank you so much for taking this small time from your valuable life and coming on my channel and spreading this amazing, amazing information. Because I know there's night there, but I just wanted to thank you so much for coming here.
Great. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kapiel. Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.